All right, HR management students, I graded your proposals and there were some serious issues with it, so I want to go through that with all of you right now. Let's get started. So, problems. Historically, there have been very few poor grades on these proposals. And they alerted me to issues. I then fixed with the individual students, and then they resubmitted. I replaced those grades, and this showed that those issues have been addressed and everybody could move forward, believing that they had a good interviewee, a good organization, and were on the right track to do well on the final paper. In this class, there were a majority poor grades. Normally, I would think this is me. Here's why. You got a bunch of smart people, and then the common denominator is me. Therefore, if a majority of people do poorly on a particular assignment or task, I am the thing that is held in common. So clearly there was something wrong with the assignment. I didn't explain it well enough. There was ambiguity. There was not enough time to do it. There was something wrong with it. And that would be 100% my fault. I'm the person that decides what assignments to assign and when to have them do, etc. This time, no. This one was not me. This one was not me. Here's how I know it was not me. Excuse me. The template is clear on what you should include. It's straightforward. It asks specific questions and it tells you what to include. Please identify the organization. Why was this organization chosen? How many full-time employees do they have? Part-time employees, volunteers, interns. Please identify the person that you have chosen to get this information. It's all there. And yet some people just left things out or just overlooked it or didn't include it or did not follow directions. The video went further to spell out what to include, even how or why. And so if you just had the template alone, it should have been fine. But the video took it a step further and said, okay, here's why I want to know this. And the benefit of this information, hoping that that would enhance the information you gave me and you would do even better. I rewatched the video to see where I might have missed explaining something. I didn't. Everything was explained in that video. Everything was spelled out in that template, or it's just the standard expectation for graduate level writing that need not be explained. The fact that your writing needs to be coherent, that it needs to be properly cited, that it needs to be proofread and edited. How else do I know it was not me? The video should not have been necessary at the graduate level. I think the template is more than generous. In most classes, virtually all, you won't be getting a template that explains exactly what you should include in a paper. It's totally up to you. The reason I do that is because I want you guys to practice the skill of very concise, straight to the point, communicative writing, because that's in the government and in nonprofits, that's how we communicate. And it really annoys decision makers when they have to hunt for information. So they specifically ask you to fill in the blank and provide information in specific blanks. So I'm trying to teach you how to do that. It's also so I can grade you fairly. I'm looking for specific things. You know exactly what I'm looking for. I know whether it's there or not there. You get the points if it's there. If it's not, you don't. So I feel like the video should not have been necessary. The template pretty much is more than enough, but it was offered anyway. And it's clear on the expectations, especially at the 11-minute mark. I make it clear every statement of fact. If you give me a factual statement, it should have a citation that follows it. And every citation should have a buddy. So in text, you should have a citation that says where you got this information. Unless the source is you, you should be able to tell me where it came from. The source would be you on explaining why an organization has been chosen. You're the source on that one. But if it's a statement of fact, there's typically another source. Your source should be the interviewee. And when I say every citation should have a buddy, I'm trying to get you guys used to the idea of you've got to cite in text, and you've also got to have a full bibliographic citation in your references. So it matches. At the 11-minute range, also in that 11 to 12 minute, I explained how to cite personal communication. As if this were not available elsewhere. As if you can't Google it. There's Canvas, things that I put on Canvas, modules there that I got specifically from the university that show you how to do it. And I explained it's first initial, period, last name, comma, personal communication, comma, the date. I explained that. I also explained that it must be present to substantiate the information you're expected to provide for the template. So in there, told you how to cite it. You could have looked it up, but I told you how to cite it. And I also said that it's got to be in there. And that's what I'm looking for. And for so many, it wasn't in there, because the only thing you needed to succeed on this paper was to answer the questions and cite your interviewee as the person that gave you that information. And that's all you needed. So that should be pretty easy. So how am I certain it was not me? Okay, video explained how these papers are graded per item. I look for the items. I divide that by the number of points available, and I issue credit for what's there. And of course, it has to be cited to be there. If you give me a piece of information, but you don't tell me where it came from, I can't give you credit for that. And how if the answer to a question, like the number of interns is none, or the number of volunteers is none, to explicitly mention that so it's clear you covered it, because I am looking for you to answer that, even if the answer is there aren't any. So I know you didn't just gloss over it. I made that really clear in the video. The template explicitly reminds students also, and I did it in the video, there's no first person in APA. Yet 5 folks, that's 25% of this entire class. Still, big fat did it anyway. So I know that was not me. The template's right there, it explains it. Video explains it again. There's really no reason for that. So in sum, all you need to do, answer the questions and cite the interviewee as the template instructs in APA, personal communication. This is easily done. I know this is not me because I thought about it. What else could I have done? I know I allowed plenty of time for this. I know the template made it clear what to include. I know the template explicitly mentioned to cite the interview as personal communication, to avoid the first person. I know you all have access to the aids for APA on Canvas and online, Purdue OWL. You've got access to that. You can check it. And I'm certain that that was enough. I'm certain that that alone was more than enough. But there was still plenty of supplemental instruction beyond this in that video that I did for you guys. So I gave you an entire week to do this, to focus on this, and gave you a video to help. So I don't think there's anything else I could have done here. Why am I concerned? Not so much because I think that this individual grade is going to have a big impact on your final average. It's not. It's because it defeats the larger purpose for many of you. And as you guys recall, the larger purpose was I wanted to make sure that you guys had chosen an organization and interviewee that was going to be able to supply the answers. Because if you were trying to look up the answers online, it's a lot of time you're going to spend that you wouldn't otherwise have to spend if you just picked a better interviewee that knows the answers. And you're likely going to be unable to find them. A lot of the questions in this template are not something that you can find anywhere. And so I wanted to give you a little bit of a leg up by maybe alerting you that maybe you should go with an organization that's a little bigger, or maybe you should go with someone with a different job title that's specifically in HR. That was the goal. And it was not achieved for many of you guys because you did not provide the information I needed in order to know whether or not the organization, the person, can supply the answers you require. The concerns I had was mostly about the person. A lot of you included enough information about the number of full-time equivalents so I could tell it was a large enough organization. Some that it was kind of questionable, but mostly it was not clear what you were specifically focusing on. It bounced around. I'm looking at this department and this program, and well, I really don't know what information you're giving me for what. And also, the person chosen, I wasn't given enough information about their job duties to know that they can supply these answers. And so, I mean, I can't help you with that if I don't have the information. So this kind of puts me in a bad position, and here's why. For the few in the past who submitted papers, proposals, and the organizations or the interviewee were questionable, there were resubmissions because it was only a handful. So I worked with them directly, and they were able to resubmit, and then boom, we move forward. There are just too many in this class for you guys to resubmit. There's just too many. And moreover, what once, if done once, would be a service, it can become counterproductive, and it could create a dependency if there's too much handholding. It should just be, a service, a favor, something in your advantage. Instead, I don't want people to grow dependent on it, to think that, oh, well, I don't have to be conscientious about watching the video, reviewing the template, checking my APA, because it's just a proposal. The big paper comes later. That's not what I want here. It's supposed to help you, and it hurts you if it gives you the impression that you can not put the right level of due diligence in here. And if I did what I've done in the past and let you guys resubmit, then there's really, I'm reinforcing behavior I don't want to reinforce. It would just be more hand-holding, be more the same, what I think is the same problem. I don't want to reward that. That's not good. When I've given you everything you need to succeed and you just don't take it, another chance at this by giving you more individual attention is not what you need. You need to take what you've been given already, and you need to take a hold of it and do good with it. So that's the spot I'm in. This problem is fixable, y'all. The questions the interviewee must answer, they're in the template. So the problem of, is this person able to answer these questions? You can fix it by doing the interview. And if he or she cannot answer the questions, you know to try someone somewhere else. It's on you to find an organization and interviewee. The proposal was an attempt to help you, but I can't help you if I don't get all the information I need in the paper. And at this point, that ship has sailed. Only you can know the answer going forward if the person can answer the questions by doing the interview. I can't do the same thing I offered to do over, which is revisiting this with each of you, finding out, the number of employees, finding out the job title, and then giving you a one-by-one answer. That was the point of me allowing the proposal. Most don't allow a proposal, but I did that because I thought it would help you. I can't keep doing that, and I don't think it's a good thing for you. So I'm not going to be revisiting this by giving feedback on individual papers moving forward. I will answer questions in general, and I'll explain how this is going to go henceforth. Allow yourself time to recover if you must go elsewhere. So if I questioned the organization or the interviewee in your proposal, leading you to believe that I think you might not have an organization or an individual that can answer your questions, make sure you give yourself enough time to find someone else, because you don't want to push it. Use what help is still offered. Okay, problem thus far seems to be with a lack of effort to heed the extra help I've offered. Okay, like the video. It's there. I think a lot of people wouldn't have struggled if they would have watched it. I think a lot of people that really struggled flat out didn't watch it because it was in there. I know it was a 22-minute video, so there was a lot in there, and that's because I wanted to be thorough. So it's possible to overlook something, but on the whole, I think most people didn't even pay attention, because most people who struggled didn't pay attention by virtue of the fact that, in the template it says what to do and it just flat out wasn't done. For example, the first person issue. For your final papers, the video is still available, okay? Use it. It explains exactly how you're supposed to do the scholarly side, the research side of things, and how to score well on each of those sections. Run-on sentences, fragments, and these they have no place in graduate level submissions, especially considering that we are now in the golden age where a computer can check that for you. Grammarly is free. I use it. I consider myself a pretty good writer, but I still use Grammarly. And there's really, if you know that you have, I've pointed out, capitalization issues where you capitalize something that shouldn't have been capitalized, you failed to capitalize something that should have been capitalized. You had tense issues, you had other problems, use Grammarly. Also, there's no excuse for not checking your APA. Just check it. Just do it. Ask questions. Use the course Q&A board if you have questions about the final paper. This way you can help each other, because if you've got a question, maybe someone else has it. And if you go to the course Q&A board and the question's already answered, that saves you the time having to ask it yourself. If it's not been answered, you ask it, and then the next person that comes along, they don't have to wait for an answer. When you email a question, other people don't get the benefits of having the answer accessible to them, and it's, you know, just not as efficient. That's why these questions go on the course Q&A board. It saves time and effort. It also saves me from having to answer the same question multiple times, and people having to wait on an answer. So ask questions about assignments, not related to individual grades. Ask questions about your final paper. Go there and ask them. Any questions asked there will be answered for all to see. Questions by email will be referred back to the course Q&A board. So if you message me a question in general about the assignment, I'm going to punt it back to the course Q&A board. I'm not going to answer it there, because I made it really clear the most efficient place to do it is on that Q&A board. That's why it exists. Let me give you some tips. Again, all statements of fact require a source immediately following that statement. Your source for information about your organization, the information that's required in the paper, that source is your interviewee. Your interviewee should be cited in every single section, because there's information in every single section that has to be provided somewhere, typically by the interviewee. When it came to your proposals, if you didn't give the source immediately after, but you gave your interviewee at the end, I went ahead and counted that. Really, you need to put it immediately after whatever factual information you gave. So some of you went to other places other than your interviewee. You know, you went to a website or something else. That, you still get credit for that, because you substantiated your factual statements. You shouldn't have to go to all those places and take the time to look it up and cite it and everything else. You should be able to get that from your interviewee. If you choose an interviewee that knows enough, you should be able to get that from them. But you should not have a statement in anywhere in your paper that is a factual statement, a positive statement, that does not have a source telling me where you got that statement. Also, you're graded by the presence of each item asked for in the template. There are no points awarded for unsubstantiated items. So I count up everything I ask for in that section, and I divide it by the point value for that section. There are 10 things on your 10 sections total on your final paper. That makes each section worth 10 points. If in section 1 there were 7 things I was looking for, which basically made each thing worth 14 points. In other sections, there'll be, 6 things, 8 things, 4 things. That's what I do. If you do not give substantiation for something, you do not get credit for it. So make sure that you cite where you got that information. Every in-text citation needs a corresponding bibliographic citation, and likewise. So if there's something in your bibliography, it needs to be in your text. Opinions have no value in academia. In academic student writing, they do not belong. Even in the conclusion. The conclusion is you summarizing all of the research you did and what the research brings to bear on where to move forward with the organization. What research suggests they're doing that are best practices, what research suggests they're doing that is outdated, per se. View the video for tips on what scholarly sources to look for when critiquing the interview. The video will help you. More tips. Check your citations and do not risk the APA penalty. That's 10 points. That's a letter grade right off the top. Just check your citations. Because the way you learn APA is by doing your best trial and error. Things like numbers. I pointed this out to a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys were spelling out larger numbers that should have been numeric, and you were typing up alphanumeric numbers when they should have been spelled out, okay? So check your manual for that. Edit and proofread. The failure to do so will be the professionalism penalty, okay? So that's another -10. Failure to adhere to APA is lacking professionalism. That alone would be a professionalism penalty. But I'll do double damage for both infractions. So if you have clearly not done your due diligence when it comes to checking for APA compliance, and you have clearly not edited, that's 20 points right there. The way it works with the APA penalty is like I said, I don't punish you for something that, you know, you wouldn't know to look up, right? You wouldn't necessarily think, you know, is percent the spelled out or is it the symbol? Things like that, you might not think that you need to look up. I don't nitpick on that. I assess the APA penalty when it's very clear that you didn't even check to see how it's supposed to be done. Or your bibliography is full of sources of the same type and they're all cited differently, which makes you know one of them's got to be wrong. They can't all be right. They're either all wrong or at least some of them are, right? So that's when you get the penalty. So I don't look to assess that penalty, but it's completely optional and it's a total waste. So check your citations. Do not risk that. Now, redemption. There's still every opportunity to do well on your final interview paper. There's still every opportunity to do well in this class. I do that on purpose. I make sure that the end is weighted more than the beginning so that there's redemption. The proposal was intended to be a leg up and to pad your grade. And it's done that for countless other classes. That was the goal. But it is a grace. It's not an entitlement. And I don't know a whole lot of other classes where you can run your ideas and your intro of a paper past a professor to get some feedback first. Most of the time, you just submit your paper at the end and hope it's okay. But it should not inspire half-hearted submissions. If you have the opportunity to get a leg up, you should fully embrace that opportunity and take advantage of it, not think, oh, well, I'll have another chance later. So there's still a chance for the class to get the benefits I designed for this, the leg up, the padded grade, without reinforcing problem behavior and without hand-holding, which I think has potentially been counterproductive. And the way we can do this is by you fixing these issues on your own, which I know you can do, and you have more than enough resources to do it. So here are the conditions. It is clear from the final paper that the problems that led to poor performance on the proposal are duly addressed. I'll consider replacing the poor proposal grades. What I'll do is I'll regrade your intro of your final paper as if it were the resubmission of the proposal, and I'll replace the prior grade, minus the APA penalty. The highest replacement grade you can get be a 90. And this is because like I said, I only assess that penalty if you clearly didn't put the effort in. I don't nitpick on minor infractions. So if you clearly didn't put the effort in or just ignored something that I explicitly stated, like no first person, basically your opportunity, you forfeited it at the time. You don't get to go back and do it now. So I'm going to, if I can see you did what you're supposed to do, I'll go back and I'll look at your intro and I'll grade it the way I graded the proposal. And I'll replace that grade. If you had an APA penalty on your proposal, it'll end up being a 90. If you didn't, it could be up to a 100. And hopefully it will be. It should be, because I've told you exactly what's missing. So if you heeded everything I said, really, you should get either 100 or a 90 on your resubmission if you put in the effort to make sure that it's clear that you have fixed these issues that were a problem. So it's 100% on you. I'm not going to be pre-checking submissions. Don't email and say, hey, does this look right? I'm not going to be tutoring you on APA. I'm not going to be holding your hand anyway. I feel like I've done that and didn't work. All you need to succeed is already available to you. I'll answer new questions I've yet to cover in the course Q&A board. When I say new questions, if I've already covered this in the video, I'll not re-answer it. Just go to the video. It's already there. Do your due diligence and look at the video. There will be no replacement grade, by the way, if either penalty is assessed or if feedback is ignored. Here's what I mean. If there's an APA penalty, then we clearly have not rehabbed ourselves from the proposal. If there's a professionalism penalty, same thing. And if I have taken the time to give you feedback about how you do numbers in APA and you haven't heeded that, then also I feel like you're not doing your due diligence. Plagiarism also forfeits the replacement grade. Here's what I mean by plagiarism. You've got to put things in your own words. You can't excessively quote. You can't just change a couple of words in a source with a synonym. Make sure you use your own words. You cite your sources and you put them in your own words. If we have a plagiarism issue with your final paper, you should know this by now, it's grad school, that's going to forfeit the replacement grade, because that's a totally different issue that we should not be having. And I don't want to reward that either. So we've got to really step it up moving forward. In sum, okay, y'all, I don't invent graduate level standards. I don't invent them. I didn't come up with them. I merely enforce them. And I always have these students that say, I want to make sure I give you what you want. And I'm like, well, it's not about what I want. Yes, I have objectives for every assignment. And that's why I make it clear what those objectives are and what should be included. But I don't decide, what is quality level graduate work. I don't decide what's, not too edited. Like I said, 20%, if you have someone help you with your paper and more than 20% is their edits, then it's not sufficiently original. I did not make that up. So I don't create these standards, I enforce them. And I want everybody to succeed, really, so much that I risk trouble for myself on this one. I've got to explain why grades in my courses are suspiciously high. And because it makes it look like I'm trying to get, either I'm not teaching it, or I'm trying to get good course evaluations because I'm just handing out A's like they're cookies. And I've got to turn around and explain, no, the reason why my grades in my classes are higher than others is because I'm a coach. And I, give chances to submit in pieces. I let them do proposals. I let them, submit drafts because I want them to get it right. I don't want it to all their eggs to be in one basket. And at the end, hopefully they got it right. Because at that point, I can't teach them. So I've got to explain that. That's how much I want everyone to succeed. And I do everything I can toward that end to help you succeed, which I think is much, much more than most people do. Much more than standard. I don't know a lot of people that do templates or proposals. And it has limits. And typically it helps, but this time it didn't. And really that limit has been reached. I've given all the feedback I can, the individualized feedback on your interviewees and your organizations that I can do at this point. It's up to you. You know what's expected. There's plenty of help already out there. So I believe you have more than enough ability to help yourselves, especially considering everything that's already there. And I really look forward to seeing you do so. If you got any questions about this, there's a question board. Put your questions there and I will get to them. And I wish you guys a great week and a great rest of the semester.